G'day and welcome back to the homeschooling journey, where today I want to answer the question, why did I choose to homeschool? And I guess one of the reasons I particularly wanted to answer this for this series of videos is because I want to make it really clear that I didn't choose homeschool because I think school sucks. My educational qualifications are as a middle school teacher, so I have a Bachelor of Education, which I got about 100 years ago, it feels. So I have been trained in education and worked in schools, and of course, like everyone else, I went to school. So, and I have a lot of friends who are teachers, and I have to say, I want to say this very, very loud and clearly, that teachers have my utmost respect. And the majority are very hardworking people, very dedicated. And right now, I mean, a huge shout out to the teachers around the world who have gone from not just having to know how to teach in a classroom environment, which is pretty huge in itself, they've now had to embrace the challenge of giving lessons online, of preparing materials so far in advance that they can be sent out and distributed in different ways, and how to use platforms. A lot of technology use is now required that wasn't before. Steep learning curve for so many people. So if you're a teacher watching this, thank you for all your hard work, and particularly at this time as you're trying to meet, at the moment, sometimes the needs of some schools have still got some kids coming and some are at home, and I really hope you're not trying to have to do in the classroom and online. I think that's a huge burden to ask of you. But anyway, why did I choose to homeschool? Now that I've given you all the I'm not someone who's anti-school as such, I think I'm just really pro my kids. And it's not because I think my kids are more important than your kids and that my kids deserve a private education at home and yours don't. It's what was right for our family and for me. And I reckon, I was thinking about it the other day, specifically in light of why did spending so much time with my own kids appeal to me? And I think it's actually to do with my mother, who stayed at home when she had my brother and I. She did not go back into the workforce until I was in year 6, and then it was only part-time, and she did that part-time until I was in high school. So in order for her to stay home with us, that meant living on one income. And it was a particularly low income, and so it wasn't easy for my parents financially to run the family, and but they did it through good management and sensible homemaking skills, etc. But the thing that my mother said during that, and why she was willing to live in that very uncomfortable financial space, was, and I quote, "If I bring children into this world, I think it's my job to raise them." And so she was very, very clear that she didn't want anyone else, she didn't want to be dropping her babies off or her toddlers off. She wanted to raise her kids, and I guess that I heard that from a young age. It went very deeply into my psychology, to the point where I'm looking to, when I am older and I have kids, I too will raise them myself. And this is not to guilt or shame those of you listening who have had kids in daycare from a young age. I realise we all make the best decision we can at the time that we can. So for me, the best decision was, it was just a given in my mind. I will stay with my babies. But then, of course, when they went to school, it was a very strange feeling for me. I distinctly remember the first parent-teacher interview that I had to attend, and the teacher said something that I straight away just went, that's not actually what my child is. That she made a broad statement about, oh, this child's a very such and such child, and I went, no, they're not. And that's, I guess, the beginning of the journey for me of going, I wanted to know what my child had been doing all day. I wanted to know how they were treating other human beings. I wanted to know what lessons they were really finding easy and what lessons they were finding hard. And I didn't want to get them at the end of the day really exhausted and tired, and at their worst, having been unable to sow into their lives when they're at their best. So I guess these were all things that, that was my experience. And then whenever I heard about homeschooling, my ears always pricked up, and I was like, tell me about it. Why do you do it? How do you do it? And then things came to a head when our eldest two were completing year 2 and year 4 at primary school. particularly for one of the children. It was proving to be a very difficult time for them at school due to their learning style, the way that they thought, the way they looked at the world. And at that time, we just started to question, should we try this? And I guess actually I wasn't thinking, should I try this? I was thinking, should we do this? And that's what made it too daunting. I had this feeling that if we did it, it would be forever. What if I ruin them? What if I ruin their lives? And it was fortunately just an acquaintance of mine, also a teacher actually, who said to me very rationally, she's like, well, where are they now? And I was like, well, they're in school. Well, what if you take them out and it doesn't work? And I was like, oh, she's like, you could send them back to school. I hadn't thought of that. So I know that sounds really, really dumb, but for me it was all or nothing, and she just broke it down into, why don't you try? What's the worst that can happen? And that was what gave me the courage to start homeschooling. And as I said in my previous video, that was 8 years ago. So I've completed 8 years of homeschooling, and that when we started coincided with when our third child was due to start primary school. So she's gone from reception through till now. She's in year 8. And last year, the oldest child did go back to high school for a few years, which she enjoyed, and I'm glad she did that, but she came back home for year 11 and 12. So last year, our youngest started primary school, so we had a reception and a year 12 in the same home at the same time. So that was a very rich year for us. So anyway, I just wanted to give you the reasons we started homeschooling. It wasn't that school wasn't good enough. It was just that I believed that in the home environment, there were things we could do that would perhaps better suit our children and would enable me back into that role of primary caregiver all day, which doesn't mean it's exclusive either. The kids are still involved in other activities outside of the home, which is, like many people, I think, particularly for homeschoolers, at this very strange time in our history, being at home all day with our kids actually doesn't feel like that much has changed. The biggest change has been that all the extracurricular activities have shut down, and so really we just do a lot less running around. A lot more worrying, but a lot less running around, and hopefully not too much worrying either. Depending where you sit at this stage, I realise that there's a huge variety of problems at this time for different people, and I feel very blessed that ours is one of being able to just soak up this time in our lives. Anyway, I'm going to leave that one there for now, and I hope you join me for my next video, which is about how to run the household. That's right, how to keep the day going when all of a sudden you're expected to look after kids when really there's a lot of other things you feel like you should be doing. Hope you can join me then.